Hi, my name is Ryan Cheek, and today we will be going over objects as arguments in Java. Passing objects as arguments allows two or more objects to coincide with each other, allowing them to share, compare, duplicate, and manipulate either entire objects or the data within objects. The following circle class contains a greater than method that accepts an object of the same class. The greater than method allows one object to accept another and determine, based on arbitrary values or variables, whether or not the object that was passed as an argument is greater than the object that called it. This method typically accepts an argument of the same class. Here's an example of a circle class. At the bottom of the code, the greater than method accepts another circle class or object as an argument and tests to see if the radius of the current class is greater than the radius of the class that is passed as the argument. If this is so, it returns true. If not, it returns false. Here's an example of circle test class. As you can see, there are two circle objects created, circle 1 with a radius of 5 and circle 2 with a radius of 2. In the comparison below that, circle 1 dot greater than circle 2 checks to see if circle 1 is greater than circle 2. If so, the system prints out circle 1 is greater than circle 2, and if not, circle 1 is not greater than circle 2. As you can see, this is circle 1 that was created with a radius of 5 and circle 2 on the right with a radius of 2. It's obvious to see that the circle on the left, circle 1, is greater than circle 2 on the right. This is a visual example of what the previous code demonstrates. Example 2. Write an employee class that contains variables string empName, int numYears, int numSales, and double sales amount. This class should also include accessor and mutator methods for each variable. Here is a diagram of what the employee class should look like. Write an employee test class that demonstrates the use of the employee class and the greater than method. Alright, so here we have our employee class, and for speed's sake I have already fixed our constructor so that it accepts a string, an integer for the number of years, an integer for the number of sales, and a double for the sales amount, and initializes our variables to those arguments, our parameters, sorry. Okay, and I also have included all of the accessor and mutator methods for all the variables. So now all we're going to have to do is create the greater than method. Alright, so the greater than method, it'll return a boolean because you want to determine whether one object is greater than the other, so it's going to be either true or false. Alright, greater than. Alright, so typically a greater than method is going to accept the same object type, which is employee. So we're going to do employee, and we'll do emp. Okay, now the greater than method, the values that are compared within a greater than method are arbitrary. It depends on what values inside of this object you want to compare with another object of the same kind. So in our case, we really don't want to compare employee names, so we're going to leave that out, but we're going to compare the number of sales, the number of years, and the sales amount. So we'll come down and we'll do a conditional that says if num years is greater than emp dot get num years. We've got to use our accessor methods, which is, where's that, get num years. Alright, and let's see what else. Num sales is greater than emp dot get num sales, and sales amount is greater than emp dot get sales amount. Okay, so we have our if statement set up, and if this is true, we just want to simply return true. Otherwise, else return false. You want to make sure that anytime you have a method that's returning a value, you want to, at some point or some state in the method, you have to return a value. So make sure that your method fits that criteria. Alright, so now that we have that set up, our employee class is ready to go. So I'm going to move over to our test employee class, and I'm going to create two employees. I'll go employee emp1 equals new employee, do Ryan Cheek, say I worked there for 15 years, I don't know, I've made 245 sales at a total of $45,000. And then we'll create another employee class, emp2 equals new employee. We'll go with Gita Phelps, and we'll say she's worked there for 8 years. And things have been tough. She's only made 4 sales, and $8,000 sounds about right. Alright, so we have our two employee classes set up, and we want to check to see if one of the classes is greater than the other. So what we'll do is we'll go if emp1 dot greater than emp2. So if emp1, which is my class, is greater than emp2, which is Dr. Phelps' class, we'll say system.out.println Ryan is above all, the best. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Alright, and then otherwise we'll do system.out.println Dr. Phelps isn't so bad. Alright, so now what we'll do is when we run it, this will tell us whether or not employee 1 is greater than employee 2. So let's compile it, no errors, and we'll run it. Ryan is above all, the best. I like that. And as you can see, it comes through and it compared the number of years to her number of years, my number of sales to her number of sales, and the sales amount to her sales amount. Passing objects as arguments to other objects allows multiple objects to communicate or share data with other objects. Methods like the greater than method typically accepts parameters of the same object.